Definitely darkening your environment before going to sleep. So this sends, physiologically, this will send a message into the brain to tell the brain that bedtime is approaching. So will help your body to release melatonin, which is our sleep signaling hormone. And doing this, another really important point to make is looking at the time in which a person falls asleep. So sometimes people think that they have sleep difficulties because they perhaps want to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, but their body isn't ready to go to sleep until 11 o'clock at night. So looking at the time in which you naturally fall asleep so that these strategies really work in line with where the body is already working at, if that makes sense. So darken the environment about an hour before going to sleep is when you want to darken the environment. There's a lot of and ahhing around blue light. You know, there's a lot of research for and against, and it's one of those things. And I think from my practice, so, you know, I work with people all day, every day. Anecdotally, what I find is it's very dependent on what is being consumed, as opposed to whether or not you're looking at a screen. So if you're watching a serial killer documentary before going to bed, that's probably not going to be ideal, right? To then be able to go to sleep and have a restful sleep. Same as if you're scrolling like social media, again, that kind of keeps you really into it, which then prevents you from being able to go to sleep because you're very, very stimulated. A really simple hack that I use with lots of people is to turn the phone on to grayscale. So I don't know if you've heard of that function. So you basically make a screen black and white. Then so within that hour, turning your phone on to grayscale to make it less kind of enticing, and doing something that helps you to relax and unwind. And that's going to look really different to different people. So it might be doing a jigsaw puzzle, it might be reading a book, it might be having a bath, it might be doing meditation, whatever relaxation looks like for you. So don't do something because you think, oh, that's going to make me fall asleep. Do it because it really helps you to relax and unwind. Then obviously being really conscious of what your sleep environment is when you fall into sleep. So that's remaining exactly the same the whole way through the night can really, really help. Waking up at the same time 7 days a week. So if you've got sleep issues, keeping that really, really consistent and getting some natural daylight into the eyes as close to waking up as possible. If it's dark at the moment, right? So if it's quite an early wake up, just getting lots and lots of bright light in the morning to tell the brain that it's time to wake up. Typically on a Sunday, we have like a later morning, perhaps the alarm set a little bit later, or we don't have an alarm, and then maybe have a bit of a lazy day and then wonder why we struggle to go to sleep on a Sunday night. But actually, when we think about sleep, we almost always think about the amount of hours that we've got to sleep. What we don't think about is how long do our bodies need to prepare to go to sleep? Because when we wake up in the morning, our bodies are starting to prepare to fall asleep that night by building sleep pressure and by building sleep drive. So I would say with nighttime, the most common thing actually that I see is when the morning wake up time is not consistent. Does that make sense? So if you've got all different morning wake up times, your body still needs the same amount of time to build that sleep pressure. So if you're a 7-hour night person, your body needs 15 hours to build sleep pressure. So if your wake up times are varying between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., that can then have an impact on the time that you're able to fall asleep. Then when we're looking at things that like stress and how stress impacts on sleep, and is it daytime stress, you know, having a busy work-life balance, I often speak about closing the day off. So like when you've finished your work day, going through your next day, looking at your priorities, where are they going to go, getting anything done that's easy to get done, like there and then for the next day. So you're prepped and ready for the next day. And then one of the most important things is looking back on the day you've just had and recognizing where you've achieved or accomplished something that day. So it really helps to decompress the day, and it leaves you kind of with a feeling of, because often a lot of us kind of rush through life we're on this never-ending to-do kind of bandwagon. And actually, when you stop and reflect about what you've just done, it can give you a real sense of accomplishment, which is a nice way to finish the day. That I recommend for lots of people that I work with on a day-to-day basis where they've got kind of busy lives, because it tends to tie a neat bow on the end of the day. And then if you've got anything that you need to do in the evening, you can plan that out. So, you know, I'm going to do this task to get ahead of tomorrow and finish at 10 o'clock, say. Then having a brain dump as well. So at times when things are really super, super stressful, having some constructive time to really dump all of those stresses out onto paper. So having some constructive worry time is really helpful as well. So that's what I would recommend for stress, you know, as far as sleep goes. And then exercise. So ensuring that you're getting some movement during the day. Doesn't have to be, you know, crazy high intensity exercise, even just walking. And there is some research to suggest that exercise in the morning helps with being able to fall asleep, and exercise in the afternoon typically helps with being able to maintain sleep. So being quite directive in where you do that movement, where you do that exercise. Daylight exposure throughout the day as well. So it's really crucial in the morning, but using it during the day. And particularly if you're feeling tired, just 5 minutes of going out into natural daylight can really help to give you a boost of energy. Reducing caffeine, so trying to avoid caffeine around 8 hours before the time in which you go to sleep, again, can be really helpful. And keeping quite structured meal times, because the body, the circadian rhythm is quite structured, and the more we feed it with the same information, it will then automate those processes. So if we keep quite structured meal times alongside structured sleep wake times, it helps the body to just be able to do that automatically, so you haven't really got to think about it. So that can be really helpful. And then not eating a minimum of 2 hours before going to bed, a main meal, but aiming really for 3 hours. And same with exercise, definitely not within the 2 hours before bed, but ideally 3 hours. So the body's got chance to reduce the heart rate, to reduce the core body temperature.